All right, y'all. Welcome to the Fitness for 55 Plus podcast brought to you by Stronger Life. My name is Dr. Dustin Jones, Doctor of Physical Therapy.
Dr. Jeff Musgrave, Doctor of Physical Therapy.
All right, so we are live streaming into our Facebook group called Fitness for 55 Plus. This is where we have folks from all over the country, all over the world that submit questions related to health, fitness, wellness, specifically for folks over 55. All right, so today's question comes from Lisa. So Lisa asks, this is a pretty common question that we'll get. What is the best way to tone underarm flab? What is underarm flab, and what is the best way to tone it?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
This is not, as Dustin said, an uncommon question. We get this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Part of feeling good is feeling comfortable in your own skin, and that is a problem area for a lot of people. I think it's good to recognize that there's changes to our body over time, a lot that are normal. Mm-hmm. Things that, like, I know people don't love wrinkles, for example, but wrinkles happen.
Yeah.
The lines on your forehead, they happen.
There are signs of it. Hot dog rolls.
Hot dog rolls.
Yeah.
Man, I'm hungry. It's almost lunchtime. We can't be talking about hot dog rolls. But things like elasticity in our skin changes over time. So there is some amount of that underarm flab, or that kind of like things are hanging down a little bit. There's some elasticity lost in the skin. Sometimes there is some component of fat or adipose tissue that is there. And then also within that same compartment is the muscle, the tricep muscle, that helps with pressing strength. And I think probably one of the biggest misconceptions when people ask me about this topic is they say, what exercise can I train that piece of tissue? Like, how do I change that piece of tissue? And they want a strengthening exercise to do that. But if it's partially some elasticity lost in the skin, there's some adiposity in there, so some fat, and then maybe the muscle isn't as large as it used to be, giving extra space, then it's a combination of things, and there's not just one solution. And if the majority of it, say, is adipose tissue, we all collect it in different places, which also means we all lose it at different rates in different places, which is really frustrating.
Yeah.
For me, I've gone through periods of life where I've not been as good with my nutrition, not been as good with my exercise regimen. And for me, it's not under the arms, it's right around my belly. It's the first place I gain it, it's the last place I lose it. And unfortunately, some of those things we can't change. So having, bringing that view up, zooming out on that tissue and recognizing it's multiple things, but also figuring out, like, hey, if this is extra fatty tissue I don't need to carry around, then nutrition has got to be a vital part. If you want to solve that problem. You've got to be eating whole foods, getting your protein in. Exercising is helpful, obviously, for reducing adipose tissue, but you can't target train it. You can't just do isolated tricep exercises to make that tissue go away. You have to interact with the whole organism, the whole body, challenge the whole thing, ramp up your metabolism, doing things like high-intensity interval training, doing major muscle group strength training is very helpful for gaining more muscle mass, helping those muscles grow in size. So it's like the exercise piece, the nutrition piece is very helpful. And unfortunately, the bad news is all those things are good and have lots of other benefits. But the bad news is it's not a one-shot deal. You can't just work those triceps, unfortunately, and have a huge impact. That's part of the regimen to help is to strengthen those triceps and build those muscles back out. Yeah. Any other things you would add?
I think this conversation is very similar to, like, how do I get a six-pack?
Yeah.
It's like the same thing. It's like people think, I just need to do a bunch of crunches and that's going to take care of it. It'll target that, adipose tissue or fat tissue in that area, and that's what does it. And it's more, you got to think big picture. It's more systemic change that we see through nutrition and exercise, but not just a bunch of core exercise. I think particularly with underarm flab or whatever it may be, like, we can, and the question was about toning, right? So the concept of toning is interesting because, like, what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I'm glad you're honing in
it's
on that.
definitely like a more fitnessy term. Usually, if we're going to talk about toning, it's usually a little bit of the muscle getting bigger and stronger, which we would call hypertrophy, but it's also kind of a loss in adipose tissue. When those two things happen, you will look, quote unquote, more toned or defined. And so that can happen, right? You're not going to like completely, change some of those age-related changes like you mentioned, like the elasticity and things of that nature of the skin. But a nutrition program where you are fueling your body enough to grow muscle, but also lose adipose tissue is vital. And so for a lot of folks, and they don't like to hear this, right? They may need to eat more.
Yes.
Like you may need to eat more food to get that metabolic engine going and give the building blocks for you to actually build muscle to where that muscle gets stronger, gets bigger, but also to facilitate kind of the loss of fat or adipose tissue. So it's not an easy one, quick fix program. And if you think there is, or you buy one from someone, they are completely selling snake oil. It's more of a systemic thing where we have to think your overall food intake, your nutrition, and then looking at your exercises, using total body movements, also some isolated movements as well, like those tricep extensions. But it takes a kind of an overall effort to really see that change. But I think we can see toning of that area. So I don't want that to be like defeating for folks because we see it at Stronger Life all the time.
Yeah.
Where folks,
my arms look different.
My arms look different. My shirts feel a little bit different. And by different, we mean better. And that can definitely happen. And a program like Stronger Life definitely does that. So yeah, that's all I'd have to add. But I definitely would get most people to reflect on the nutrition side.
Yes.
And don't be surprised if you have to eat more food.
If you're under eating.
Yeah, particularly protein.
It's been way more rare in the gym setting that I've interacted with someone that's conscious of their fitness and their nutrition that needs to eat less. Mm-hmm. It's more. Yeah. And typically more protein. And this is a topic I'm just going to touch on that would probably be great for a completely different episode. But like a lot of our members are concerned if they start doing strength training, they're going to get big and bulky and they're going to get swole. Yeah. And it's like, man, it takes so much extra protein and food and dedication to get like real big. Yeah. Like I've been working for years and this is all I've accomplished so far, and it's like I'm trying really hard. I've dedicated my nutrition, my sleep, timing of all those things to try to get bigger because I want to get bigger and stronger. But you can get stronger without getting bigger. And you can tone that area. Yeah. And even if you try to push as heavy weights as you can, unless that is your goal. I read this analogy somewhere on the interwebs, so sorry. It's a little bit lame, but someone likened weight training and getting bulky like on accident to like driving your car and accidentally turning into a race car driver, which I thought was hilarious because just because you drive your car doesn't mean you're going to accidentally turn into a race car driver because it takes that same level of intentionality to try to make a change like that. Yeah. Which doesn't mean you can't, but like you're not going to accidentally get big and bulky. Right. It's not something you fall into. Yeah. It's a choice. That's
a good point.
Yeah.
We should definitely do a next episode on that one.
I couldn't help it. I had to bring it up. I
love it. All right, so toning underarm flab, that's our response. If you have any follow-up questions, we'd love for you to drop them in the Facebook group. So Fitness for 55 Plus, search that. You'll see the Facebook group. Request to join. We'll let you in, and then you can see this video recording. This is episode number 10. You can search that, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. For those listening on a podcast, thank you. For those watching on YouTube, thank you. If this was helpful, feel free to share it with anyone that you think it could benefit. Once again, that's our statement. You may need to eat more, but it can be done. Yes. It's complicated, but it can be done for sure.
Just zoom out and get dedicated.
Boom. All right. Appreciate y'all. We'll talk to you soon. All right.